What up, y'all? What up, y'all? Another episode of Spin. How you doing? God bless everybody. Wow, another day. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope everybody's getting ready for Thanksgiving. Bought their turkeys and get ready for those what they call it, the Black Friday sales and all that stuff like that. So, how's everybody doing out there? I hope good. Well, today I got an interviewee from down under, Dingo Dundee. Met him on different panels and stuff like that. He has a lot of very interesting points. Very nice, down to earth guy. And today we're just talking about the economy, as in how the U.S. economy affects the world. And that right there would be is a very, very um, serious issue because well, I mean I want to let you know that we ain't the only ones. We're not the only ones that's actually going through all this bullshit inside of our country. All the other countries inside the world has the same enemy. You know what I mean? I mean on a four wheel. I mean their freedoms or what rights they have. That stuff is being taken away. And I thought that we should look at it from another point of view. You know what I'm saying? From a different country's point of view. And I do have some lineup for some other interviews coming up from people from other countries and stuff like that. Hopefully, I can get one of my friends from Germany to sit there and talk about what's happening out there in Europe. But today we're going to go down under to Australia. So I want to introduce to you a friend of mine, really nice guy, solid guy. You can see him regularly on Maurice Delk, thick skin only. And let me introduce Dingo Dundee. What's up,
Yeah,
Dingo? How you doing?
yeah, g'day, mate. Thanks very much for the introduction, and thank you for asking me to join your spin.
Oh, no,
Um,
go ahead.
it's no, it's great, and you're 100% right in what you said. I mean, Americans I'm looking from outside the box, and I've been looking at America from outside the box since 2016, the first election. And before that, I wasn't interested in politics, but I wanted to give myself a mental hobby. So I started researching and getting it. And the more I got into it, the deeper I got, the more I became a Trumper. And I love Uncle Donald. And the more I've actually become awakened to what is happening in the rest of the world and how many different things that are happening are actually all planned.
Hmm.
So people say about the New World Order and they go, oh, conspiracy theory. And many of the things that are coming true, they're all calling conspiracy theories. But yeah, I mean, I'm just an average everyday Australian. I used to serve my country. I've been a telecommunications technician. I've been a model maker in the film industry, a music engineer in the sound industry.
Oh, tell me about your film industry. That's something I'm pretty interested in.
I got to work, I started to work building architectural models um, after I got out of the music industry. And I was working in this big sort of shed in Sydney in a place
Right,
called Light.
right.
And there was a special effects company there, and they were getting a lot of American contracts, and they just didn't have the labourers. So they asked me, do I want to start making some things? And then it just went from there. It just
Oh,
exploded.
what films have you worked on?
Terminator 2, um, Power Rangers, Matrix.
Oh, all right, all right. Most deaf. That sound like a lot of fun. That's something I've been into myself. I sat there and I did a lot of music videos and like R. Kelly. You know what I'm saying? All y'all don't get mad. Yes, I did video work for R. Kelly. Um, Bad Boys 2 in Miami.
Cool.
Anger management. I was a non-unionized steady cameraman. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. It was just, I knew somebody and I got on the sets, yada yada yada, then went to shows and music and did a couple tours and now I do this and chill out. But anyways, you know, How does the how what is the significance of our economy in effects to the Australian economy?
Well, first off, our dollar, the Australian dollar, is based off the value of the US dollar. So at the moment, I believe it's about six. I believe that it's 68 cents to the dollar, and
Okay.
it's not in our favour. It's in your favour. So your dollar is a lot more powerful and can buy a lot more in Australia than us.
Okay.
I mean, it comes down to not only economy, it comes down to a lot of aspects, and they're all intertwined. I mean, when it comes to the South Pacific security, when it comes to helping Pacific nations, um, when it comes to dealing with China, when it comes to dealing with um, a lot of issues, say the enrichments of the exchanges. So you look at the New York and the Washington stock exchanges, and you've got all your minerals and things like that. Australia is very wealthy in natural minerals, wealth, coal, natural gas, oil, uranium, and that's not to mention what we do in agriculture, livestock. Um, but ever since 1975, when we signed the Lima Declaration, which I honestly believe America signed as well, the Lima Declaration was basically a UN, the beginning of what the UN has done to us now. It was a
Right.
document that was designed on where they will take and share the financial, agricultural, and technological powers of first world nations and give them to third world nations. Now,
Okay.
if you go back in history, wasn't it around about the beginning of the 80s that China started making everything, started making all the toys, started,
Right.
making the clothes? Because up until that stage, China was listed as a third world country. I honestly still believe under that declaration, China is still listed as a third world country, which means that the money we're giving to the UN, they're getting the money.
Right.
So, but what's strangely really happened over the last 4 years is, look, I don't know how many Australians you've ever met, but Australians are a sort of people where, you know what, they respect a fair go. They're always willing to give somebody, the benefit of the doubt. And then when you prove them wrong, well, and they have nothing to do with you, that's the way it is. But Australians respect a fair go and what's honest.
Right.
This is what we've seen with Uncle Donald over the last 4 years. We're sitting here going, "Oh, I wish we had him.
Yeah. Where
He's
did
honest."
not to be rude, but where did
Sure.
you get the say Uncle Donald? I'm interested in that. I mean, cause I've noticed. I mean, I've met other Australians. You know, what I'm saying through it in different panels, but this is the first time I'm actually like really getting in depth inside instead of being on a big panel. Where did the saying Uncle Donald come from?
Well, actually, it's what I call him
Oh,
because
okay.
I trust the man like I would trust somebody in my family.
Right, right, right.
Occasionally he says some dumb things, but he's a smart man. He's a businessman, and he's trying with all of his heart to make America a successful business. I mean, under Obama, you just became the world's bitch and piggy bank.
Right, right.
And people need to go and look at this. People need to be more interested in politics because it's what runs your country. You can't sit at home on the couch anymore and just watch sports and titty films or documentaries or whatever. Those days are over. You've got to take an interest because if you don't, then the New World Order wins because you just become complacent and they just put all their little puppet masters in, and then when it's too late, you're part of the show. So,
Okay,
but it's no.
okay.
So Uncle Donald's me. I mean, I just trust the guy. I like him, and he's successful, and he's doing the right thing, and he knows there's a swamp. He
Okay.
knows how deep it all is.
All right. Well, what is the status of the South Pacific and what's going on there with China, Taiwan, with them trying to do like, well, I think they're trying to actually make a blame embargo on the China Strait and all that stuff like that. What's happening out there?
Well, because we basically stand with the Trump administration. I mean, Australia and America have been mates for over 100 years.
Right,
Whenever you guys have been in war, we've been there right beside you. You know,
right,
and we're still beside you in Iraq and Afghanistan.
right.
But so we follow American policies, and we're all for democracy and we're all for a fair go. But we export a lot of minerals, livestock, wine, a lot of products to China. And now, because we've been starting to uncover the depths of the Chinese Communist Party and their infiltration into our possibly voting systems, political systems. I mean, they're buying land up here, left, right, and centre,
Okay,
and buying industry left, right, and centre. And I mean, that's a scary thought.
right.
Um, so we've started investigating. So then China's now punishing us. So what they do is they go, well, we're not going to import X amount of aluminium or X amount of zinc or X amount of gold. So they're punishing us by cutting our exports to them. But we're
Okay.
finding other markets around the world because Australia needs to get back up on its little own 2 feet and stand up for itself again and go back to what we used to do before the Lima Declaration. We made everything ourselves. We made our own aircraft, we made our own cars, tractors, trains, our infrastructure. We did it all ourselves. And then we still had leftovers to export. But now
Mm.
we import everything. We don't even make a car in this country anymore.
Did
That's
you?
the effect
What car
of the
did you
US
make out
economy.
there?
Sorry?
What car did you make out there? 'Cause I never even heard that. I never even knew that Australia actually made cars.
Oh yeah, yeah. We used to have our own Ford factory where we made our own Fords. Hence the car, if you've ever seen Mad Max, that black Interceptor, that's actually a Ford XC coupe.
Right, right.
Yeah. So we made those. You should go back and look at some of the racing we do, like car racing and things. Cars were huge. So we had Holden that was based on GMH.
Okay,
Okay. Then we had Ford. And then when Mitsubishi became popular, we actually had a factory and made Mitsubishis here. The engines and some of the parts were imported, but we assembled them all here. Now,
okay.
now we import every car we need.
Oh,
Every truck, every motorbike, everything.
what is the most common um auto products do you get in there in Australia?
You mean in motor vehicles?
Yes.
Look, it's very diverse. If you want to go for, we call them a ute. It's a utility, but it's like a pickup with a tray in the back.
All
If
right.
I put it in American terms, but we call them a ute. So most four-wheel drive utes will be things either Toyota, Nissan, or Ford.
Okay.
Um, when you're looking for small cars, people seem to really like the Hyundai's.
Okay.
And then you've got your BMWs. You've got all sorts because, as I said, we import everything.
All right. Well, more or less, it's like us. Though we have a lot of different makes, Japanese, American, some
Yep.
European. Okay, okay. What is the position of your government dealing with this new world order cabal that's happening across the world?
Uh, to be really honest, mate, we're still sifting through to see who we can trust.
Elaborate on that, please.
Okay. We've got a Prime Minister, Scott Morrison. Well, he was a lot better than Malcolm Turnbull. He was the other Prime Minister, and he was a complete and utter twat.
Okay.
Um, because here's a guy. He's like a Democrat. Turnbull was. His son. It's miraculous. His son had a hedge. Used to run hedge funds out of Hong Kong, and they bought this like renewable company, and they bought it when it was like at the low of the low on the stock market. And
Okay.
then when he and then and then miraculously within 6 months, and at this stage, Malcolm Turnbull became prime minister, and 6 months after he became prime minister, he signed the Paris Agreement, and stocks in this particular company went through the roof.
Mm.
So, look, Australians do care about climate, but we also care about a decent style of living, and look, we've got the same nut jobs, but we can't tell. You see, we've got two major parties in this country. One is Liberal, which would be conservative, smallly. And then you got Labor, which is more socialist, communist, Fabianist type. And then you got your independents like One Nation, Australia First, and then the worst ones, which is a party called the Greens. Now, the Greens are the ones that come out and protest, do all the climate change, the ones to hug a tree. Our ones are really good. They go out and super glue themselves to the roads.
So
Smart
the
kids.
Greens are more or less equivalent to our liberals.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
What,
Little.
go ahead.
Sorry.
What is
No,
the
I was,
ratio? What is the ratio between? I mean, there's off. I mean, an off the cusp. It doesn't have to be an exact number or anything like that.
mhm.
But what is the ratio between the Australian version of the Liberals, which is a Green Party, compared to your more or less conservative and conservative, or if you want to say your equivalent to moderates?
Okay. Um, to be honest, it depends on the city. Like the biggest city with the biggest amount of Liberals would be Melbourne, Victoria. That
Okay.
state, that state is just so socialist. It's not funny. I mean, their premier, which is actually a governor, which is like your governor. I mean, he signed up to the Silk and Belt Road. I mean, he's just buddy buddy with China all the way through. Now, if my prime minister had half a set of balls, he'd get rid of this guy, or but unfortunately, my prime minister is liberal, but he should turn to his opposition leader, who's the head of Labor, Albanese, and tell him, say, mate, you need to get rid of this guy. I mean, Daniel Andrews is just un-Australian, and now he's being investigated because of his stupid security over the COVID, and over 800 people died. Uh,
And what is it?
so
And what is the and how many people are in Australia versus the 800 people that died supposedly from COVID?
25 million. That's a
25 million.
population. 25 million is the population of Australia.
Okay, and only 800 died from it.
Yeah, in Victoria. I mean, we've had deaths around, but our deaths have been very low. And the good thing was that at the time when it was needed, we shut all our borders. And being an island, it's really good. You can just
Right,
close in.
right, right,
So
right.
we did stop it, and then we separated our states and territories, and we each locked down.
Right. How long was
Uh,
that?
well, my state was only locked down for a few months. Victoria was locked down for well over 6 to nearly 8 months, and that's because he didn't put the right security in for like hotel quarantining, and in every other state, the defence forces did all the quarantining in hotels, so it was kept in check. But in Victoria, he didn't want the Australian Defence Forces doing it. He had private security, and it just went really bad, and so he just locked it down even longer. He's
Wow.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there were people locked up for 6 to 8 months.
All right. So what? So I remember one person from Australia. He was talking to me that he said that your government took $1 trillion from China. Basically, some of your government officials was bought out to sell out your country. Is that true?
I haven't heard about the 1 trillion. What I
Right.
have heard is we've discovered the Communist Party is going into a lot of the universities and looking at what people are inventing or discovering and basically buying them out, giving them huge wads of money. So they're recruiting people through our universities, and yet the universities are doing nothing. The universities in Australia love China because that's where they get all their money, apart from federal funding, but that's where they get all their money because of the overseas students. And believe me, the highest portion of students in all of our universities are Chinese.
So basically what they're doing is that they're actually stealing your intellectual property just through your universities and students, and just them teaching them and then taking them back to China to the CCP.
Yep, yep. Plus, I mean, we've had instances where it's been proven of politicians taking money from. It comes from. Let me put it this way: it comes from Chinese businessmen. So I'll
Right.
just leave it. Okay,
Okay.
and they've been caught. There was a shopping bag full of $130,000. I mean, really, you walk around with a plastic shopping bag with $130,000 in it. Yeah,
I mean, they're giving them cash.
yeah, man. Yeah, this was cash.
Wow. Well,
Well, you see,
go
you
ahead.
can't trace that. You can't trace cash. You can trace an electronic bank account, but you can't trace cash.
All right. So right now, what about? Tell me about the troops in the Pacific, allying with the British and the Americans, and what's happening between India and China, what's happening between Russia and China, and what relationships and also what enemies are starting to happen in that area of the world due to basically from what I see over here, United States, that gradually but surely, I mean, China is getting pushed into a corner that me personally, I think China is going to bite back. And how are the other countries reacting to all this happening in that part of the world?
Well, look, I'd have to disagree with you in one part of what you just said.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
sorry. Hold on 1 second, mate. Someone's at my door.
All right.
Sorry.
By the way, if anybody has questions inside the chat that you want me to ask because you can't see the chat, I would be glad to ask them. So if you do have questions on the chat, just put them out there and I'll ask them the questions. This is also interactive if you want.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
Oh, ain't no thing, brother.
um, look, it's what's happening is, and if people look, China is the one that's pushing. China is the one that's pushing its borders and trying to push its power and push its influence on many levels. And look at the fact that they've just now got 2 seats in the UN on human rights. And look at how they're getting into the EU and everywhere.
Right.
So, you know, we're just starting to fight back. I mean, look, China came through the South Pacific with that beautiful so-called Silk Deal,
Right.
Silk Road deal,
Yeah,
and if you didn't,
elaborate on the Silk Road deal for our viewers and for our future viewers.
well, I don't know all about it, but basically what it is, it's a Chinese government incentive where they'll go and help nations to build their infrastructure. It could be bridges, ports, airports, certain things, highways, and they offer them the funding and the personnel and the sometimes the materials and the technology and all the machinery and everything else, and they say, well, your country will be a lot better off, but their interest rates are a little bit higher, I would imagine, than normal international monetary foundation banks.
Right.
But these countries can't get a loan, okay, because that's the way the UN's made it. I mean, a third world country is a third world country. It might be the most beautiful country, like some of the Pacific Islands,
Right.
but they're as poor as hell.
Right.
You know,
Wow.
so they're still third world countries. But the
Okay.
Silk Road was China's offer to do this. But the problem is, if you didn't make the payments, and it got repossessed, and then they owned it. But the problem was they still owned it, and it's in your country. So
All right.
it's like you buying a house with a nice front yard, but your next door neighbour who you bought the house off leaves his car in the front yard,
Okay.
your front
Okay.
yard.
Okay. Okay. Um, I'm just thinking of more questions and stuff like that. Um, so what is the atmosphere of the people? Well, is there like a division inside of your country like what we have here, or it's very moderate, or it's just getting ready to start? Like our biggest thing is racism, you know, and everybody wants things for free out here, and a complacency. What are the issues of divide or tools of divide that you do have inside your country?
Well, hold on a sec, mate. Yeah, happy 45. Sorry, he can't find his right angle. He's welding something. It's my uncle.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, because I'm in the shed. Look, look, we both got the same generations of millennials. We've both got the same mainstream media. Now, in my country, one thing I've discovered is a lot more people are waking up, and a lot more people are starting to ask questions. And particularly at the moment, we're just looking at an election system that was meant to be foolproof, but isn't. And
Right,
looking at all the voter fraud, now looking at the lies, you see a lot of Australians waking up and just looking at the news and that and just going, I'm not watching this anymore. It's just bullshit because we're being bombarded,
hmm,
with Biden this, Biden that, the new president elect. And we know that it's not over yet. And we know it was going to be voter fraud. I mean, we saw Nancy Pelosi come out and say, we will win by any means possible.
right,
Speaker of the House says that sort of thing, and we can now see it, and we can see the lying, and we can see the deceit, and the more that some of the social media lets some of the articles in, we can see what's going on. Now in Australia, like I said, mate, Australians like a fair go. We like something honest.
hmm,
Now something's looks like it's being rigged or something like that. We're not particularly happy about it, so that's what we're looking in America. But we're starting to discover the same voting systems, and were they used in any of the Australian elections, and have we been manipulated?
right, right,
Because I'll tell you what, there's a couple of states where honestly the people in power should never have won.
right. So, were y'all actually using the Dominion program there when you were doing your elections, or have you found out anything about your elections that's similar to what's happening now inside the United States of America?
Well, that's what I'm researching at the moment. It's more like a corporation's made of a corporation's mate of a corporation's mate. That's what I'm sort of discovering at the moment.
Elaborate on that for people who can actually understand it, because sometimes people don't understand Australian slang.
Okay. There are many levels. Now, the companies that we use here have a certain name, but then you've got to find the parent's company name. And then you've got to find the parent of that company. You see what I mean?
Because of different EINs and stuff like that, and then holding companies, trusts, and
Yeah,
all that type stuff like that.
yeah,
And
because the way the New World Order is winning at the moment is the funny thing is they're writing all the company laws and corporate laws and all the rest of it.
UCC code, and
Yeah.
so they have like their parent company that basically like how it works in international like international trade is different than national trade. International trade is all based on UCC code, and that's what the banks go through. So it's a completely different program. And also, if you really want to look at it, these companies themselves are really unincorporated. So they're outside the jurisdiction of regular corporations, which makes it easier for them to sit there and funnel the money because the records are not. You don't have to show the records once you are an unincorporated company because you're out the jurisdiction of corporations.
Yeah, that's
So
that's
good.
why all these rich people have so many corporations.
Right. So and so then there's one thing that I was always interested to say. How did it happen? Because right now we in the United States are on the threat of having our Second Amendment right. I mean our Second Amendment taken away from us, as well as we all know that our First Amendment's being taken away from gradually but surely being taken away for us through censorship of our of the big tech. But what happened? How did it happen
I
when
know what you're
they?
going to ask me. I know
Yeah,
what you're going to ask me.
yeah. How? I don't know this. I'm sure people here in the United States don't know how it happened, but it's happened. But it's trying to happen here. And tell us what happened. How did this all come in fruition of you getting your arms taken away from you there in Australia?
Okay, it happened back, I think it was 1995. And it happened in a place called Tasmania, which is the island the big island at the bottom of Australia. And it happened in a place near Hobart. So basically, look, I've got to give you a little bit of history. Because
That's
Australia, being a Commonwealth country and part of the Crown, and it is Australia's always been the New World Order's testbed, because Australia and New Zealand have been sort of like little nations that can be controlled. Because I mean, most of the English Parliament and government and everything else, they're all elitist. But so anyway, and at that particular time, we had a Prime Minister called John Howard, so he was in, because he'll become a key a little bit later. So
right.
we had this mass shooting, tragic event. Michael Bryan apparently shot 28 people. It was apparently with automatic and semi-automatic weapons. Now the guy is a little bit mentally disturbed, true, but I don't believe capable of those shots. See, the problem was, the more you look back at Port Arthur, the more you can really understand it was like a false flag.
Elaborate
Several
on that. Elaborate on that about it being a false flag. What made you have what made y'all have that thought of it being a false flag?
Well, not at the time, because at the what you've got to understand is when a tragic event like that happens at the time in Australia's history, and we've never had anything like that happen here in Australia. It was a
Right.
huge emotional thing. Everybody was very passionate and also very angry. And it was because it was the perfect time. But okay, so we'll go back to why I believe it was a false flag and why a lot of other people do. Couple of factors. I'm ex-military, and there is no way in God's earth, and I've got sniper mates, and there's no way in God's earth you can make those shots by one person with two rifles. It would have to be two shooters. Apparently a lot of the shots were headshots. So it'd have to be two shooters. And they said that he did it with like a couple of the shots were like with a bolt action, which couldn't have happened. So there was that thing. The next thing was, isn't it amazing that at that exact particular time in Tasmania was a conference of some of the Australia's leading trauma surgeons and staff.
All right. Okay.
Then, why on the opposite end of the island was there a police and tactical convention? Hours and hours away from the thing. So there were no local cops anywhere around.
Right.
Now, for the one and only time I've ever seen one in Australia, why was there a vehicle specially designed, a one-off vehicle that was a portable morgue that could carry 22 bodies at a time?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, because Michael Bryant agreed, said he was guilty, so obviously a patsy, or I don't know, maybe an MK Ultra, whatever, I don't know. But because he agreed to it, there was no trial.
Okay.
Because he pleaded guilty. He said, yep, I did it. No trial. So no evidence brought out. No court. No nothing. So they've got a big bag of evidence. Now, 1 week after the tragic incident, the place was completely bulldozed, flat to the ground.
Okay.
So you can't go back to get any later forensic tests or anything else.
Okay.
Now, here's the clincher. Why would John Howard seal all the evidence for 90 years?
Wow. Okay, so what happened after that? So when did the legislation start? How did that became, and how did people actually start to agree on it?
Well, look, the legislation, as soon as the incident happened, the legislation came out virtually overnight.
Okay.
Okay, and because when you create something like that, you've created it for a reason, and you've
Right.
created it to create passion and disharmony and anger and upset. So you fuel it all. So
Right.
look, a lot of these facts that I've told you about why we believe, these are things that we've only been able to put together over, say, the last 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
Okay, so at that particular stage, it's not until you keep looking down the track and then something just seems to pop up.
Right.
Now, there's also been, I used to have a video of it, but there was also a couple of witnesses that actually knew Bryant, and they did some interviews before they died because they knew they were dying, but they've sort of disappeared. I did have a copy of them, but now I can't locate those, and some other people that had some, because the stories were completely conflicting. But these people, a couple of these people basically said they were told to keep quiet.
What was the stories? What was the conflicting stories?
That Michael Bryant didn't have enough mental nous to be able to do it.
Okay.
You know, he was totally incapable of doing that, and especially because it's precision shooting.
Right.
It's just possible.
What was
So
what was the range of them shooting? Was it like in a crowd, or was it inside a building, or on top of a roof, or
it was
what?
imagine like, oh, how can I put it? It's imagine like it's a park, and you've got like a kiosk and a shop where you go and get your hot dogs, your packets of chips, cold drinks, smokes, that sort of thing.
Right. So
And
it's like
we're shooting from outside into a building in the front of a building.
okay. Wow. So then all this happened. The legislation started coming down. Then what happened?
Well, then, people, the gun rules changed, and they changed really, really harsh, and they became very expensive. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, you can own a gun in Australia. You can't own fully automatics and military weapons. That's definitely number one. I don't
Okay.
know. I believe there's a certain class where you can have a semi-automatic, but they're more like professional hunters for, like, brumbies, goats, camels, because we have a lot of feral animals.
Right.
You can have pistol license to shoot a pistol, but you've got to go to a gun range. The legislation, it's like you've got to have a separate locker for your ammo, to your weapon. To get the gun license can be anywhere up to $5,000, $10,000. You've got to get checked regularly. It's just not like you can own a gun, pull it out of the drawer, and only certain caliber weapons are allowed.
Oh, all right.
So
So
mainly 22, 303, 9mm, yeah, that sort of thing.
all right. So you can still have weapons, or it's it's just highly regulated that that's to the point that it's almost impossible to do it. Just to have a
Yeah,
better understanding.
well, it is, and I mean, even to buy, just say buy a Glock 18, you're probably looking $4 or $5 grand. But
Wow.
legislation is things like, because I was going through a divorce, I had to hand my weapons in. You're not allowed to own a weapon if you're going through a divorce in this country. There's
So what they did was they set up like roadblocks, you know what I'm saying, and for people to prevent people from having guns, they didn't just like turn them in, or else did they turn them in?
Okay, the deal was you had X amount of time to get. If you were a military collector, for example, and here's a couple of examples. If you're a military collector, for example, and you own something like a German MP40 Schmeiser and maybe a KAR, but they've been deactivated and can never be fired, you had to get a special license and you could keep them, right? Because you could never use them. They were just purely ornamental. If you had semi-automatics or automatics, you were able to hand them in and they were bought back. Now, what you've got to understand is whenever there's a government buyback, they're using your money to buy back your own weapon. So there's no such thing as a government buyback. It's all taxpayers' money.
Okay.
So you had an amnesty where you could hand them in, you could sell them, but if you kept them after a certain time and you were discovered with them, because everything like ammunition, any gun parts, everything is tracked in Australia.
Right.
Okay, so when you got to go and buy ammunition things, it's all licenses, license numbers, everything's tracked. So if you're buying certain things of ammo and yet you're not registered to have any guns, that sort of gives you a couple of indications on what's going to happen. So the ramifications, if you were caught with an illegal firearm, which is what it was going to be deemed after that, were very, very high.
Right.
But you see, the problem is like taking away people's guns and all the rest of it. Now, I'll give you an example. If you were a farmer and you lived on your farm, and most farmers have rifles because you've got to kill feral dogs, cats, snakes. You've sometimes got to put down your own stock, whether they're starving or sick or, so they have rifles. So usually farmers are armed. Like, they don't carry them around with them because if you carry it in your vehicle, you've got to have it in a gun safe. It's got to be in a gun locker, like a big gun safe. You can't throw it on the back.
Oh, well, not even like on like a what they call like that they put them in the back of a truck on like a harness or something that it's locked, like you see the back. No.
Look, you could if you're on your own private property, okay.
Okay.
But if you're on public property or anything else like that, it's got to be in a gun safe.
Okay. Okay.
That's just the way it is.
Do y'all have like a Bill of Rights there in Australia or anything like that? Or what does like your Constitution say on your basic human rights out there?
We've got a constitution. Well, the Australian Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia was written in 1901, and it's a great constitution. But over the years, the Australian government is virtually a corporation. But hold on, before I go any further, I want to go back to the story of the farmer.
Okay.
Before I forget. So if you're a farmer and you're living on your farm and you've got your family there, right?
Right.
And you sit down to dinner and two guys come in with machetes, or maybe even a pistol, or a knife, or a huge sort of thing, any sort of weapon to attack you, right?
Right.
Harm your family, and you shoot them, you're going to be the one that ends up going to prison.
Mm. That's even
You
if
see,
even if it
you
was
cannot
self-defense.
own one part of owning a firearm. You cannot own a firearm for self-defense. That is not an excuse in this country.
What? So if they have a gun, you're not allowed to have a gun. So you
Well,
can't shoot. I mean,
criminals
that. I mean, that.
always find guns, don't they?
Pardon me.
Criminals always seem to find guns, don't they?
Right. And, yeah, in a way, it seems like it's. I mean, well, I ain't gonna say it seems like, but but it sounds. I mean, it is. It's a hypocrisy. You know what I'm saying? That basically, oh, come here and take everything you want because the law tells me I can't do anything, or I'm going to go to jail. You know, I mean, it's stupid. You know, and how to me it sounds like it's just you know that the government basically has a blame knee on your neck. You know, no
Yeah.
matter what you do. You know, and that's pretty sad, and that's what it's looking like that it's happening here.
Mm.
So all that. So what would you have to say to Americans that do have these rights? What would you say to Americans here in the United States?
I would. Why do you think? Why do you think the New World Order is coming down so hard on America? Why do you think they hate Uncle Donald so much? Because they want you disarmed. Because once you are disarmed, the police take over, then the UN troops take over. At the moment, the New World Order, any country in the world would be scared to walk into America because nearly everybody's got a bloody rifle or a firearm hiding behind a blade of grass. So I'd say to people, look, the American Constitution, really, when you read, and I've got a little pocket constitution that was sent to me. When you read through it and you read through the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence, you've been given so many great freedoms, and you've actually been given the clause to take back from your government because they knew that in the future there was going to be corruption, as there always is with people that want power and money, that it would get to a stage where the people were suffering and would have to do something, and you can legally do it in your country.
Hmm. What
That's
about
that's awesome to be able to legally turn around and just say to a government, hey, get out or else. And I
hmm
honestly believe that's what would happen if Biden got in, because look, Biden didn't get all those numbers. I honestly believe Uncle Donald got over 400.
right?
Easy. I believe it was a landslide because Americans were fed up. Cities were burning. Democratic cities were burning, and their mayors and their governors were doing nothing except strip the police force.
What was
Yeah.
it? What was it?
Sorry.
What was the press? What was the news companies like? What are they saying? I mean, I know you say a little bit of it, but give them some really good points in what your media out there that is talking about dealing with our election and a fraudulent election. Are they even talking about it? Do you have any conservative news stations that's on your regular televisions, or you have
No,
no none?
no, we've got maybe one or two or three news readers or good good journalists, research journalists on
Right.
Sky. But the rest of it, nah, mate. The rest of it is just left. All of it's left. The radio, the TV, all of it. It's just left.
Okay, and I remember a few years back, right? As I was listening to you and thinking we were on the subject of the gun confiscation and all that. Anyway, wasn't it Sydney when they had that shooting and it was like an Islamic shooting or something like that? It was a few
Oh,
years
I,
back.
Oh, that was the Liberate. I think it was a Liberate, it was a cafe in what's it called? Martin Place in Sydney. Yeah, yeah, where Islamic guy took hostages in a coffee cafe.
Right, right. Yeah,
Living cafe.
tell me about that and what they were saying versus what you know that actually happened. Because out here, we actually looked at that as a false flag. I mean, well, not our press didn't. You know what I'm saying? And if we did talk about, did they say this is Islamophobia? But this right here isn't Islamophobia for me. You know what I'm saying personally, but I'm curious to see the point of view and what happened with that since it was recent within the past few years that this happening when they had that shooting in Australia in Sydney, you know, and could you put some light on that for us to actually understand and to have a clear understanding of what happened at that particular point in time when the shooting actually happened?
Well, I was. Where was I? I think I was over in Queensland at the time. But look, that event happened, and at that stage, Australians were very wary because we were still very heavily involved in the Middle East. Um, as you know, look, things go in cycles. So if you've noticed, we've gone from Muslim terrorism cycle to uh, the world's burning cycle to like when all the fires were happening all around the world in
Right.
different
Yeah.
countries like Australia. That
So
then you
y'all had
had
that too? So y'all
yeah,
had
I
that
yeah. So
same
and
time? Okay.
then you had then you had your climate change thing. Now we've got the corruption type thing. Look, the one result of that event, and I don't know all the details, but what I do is when something happens, there's always consequences. So whenever an event happens, it's either for a reason to be able to achieve certain things. Now, once that particular event happened in Sydney, security was tightened up. Police were given a lot more leniencies and laws. Vehicles could be checked. More and more personal freedoms started disappearing because as they all came out and the way the media spins it, we're doing this for your protection. We've got to keep safe. We've got to protect, anybody that's doing anything suspicious, call it in. Do you see what I mean?
Right.
The media creating the narrative. Now the media in Australia is creating the narrative that Biden won fairly.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
So what the result of that terrorist situation in Sydney was eventually more and more liberties going. Now, it's really funny, but what was it last year, or actually the beginning of this year, Victoria spent $14 million and bought a bucket load of virtually AR-15s or military equivalents for the Victorian Police Force. New South Wales is automatic. Now, isn't it funny that why do you need automatic weapons in a populace that don't have weapons?
Yeah. Good question.
And why are you starting to label things like crowd response units?
Yeah, responding for what when nobody has weapons, you know.
Yeah, look, it's a lot. Look, we just want our freedoms, our freedom of speech, our freedom to choose. We couldn't give a flying stuff if you're transgender or anything else. We just don't want to hear about it, and we don't want it rammed down our throats. And
Right,
this is
right.
when you've got like the LGBT and Tifa, Black Lives Matter, these trans people, bloody Hollywood. They just want to shove their opinion down my throat, and I'm not interested. And a lot of us are like that. We're like, look, I don't care. You can go and do it in the corner, do whatever you want, but just don't
Right.
affect me. And why should I have to listen to it? Because
Right.
they're the ones that are saying, oh, look, we want to debate, we want to talk about it. So as soon as you want to talk about it with them, they just call you labels, names. Oh, you're a racist. You're a homophobe. You're this. I mean,
Yeah.
mate, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names are just not going to hurt me.
Right, right. Is there
They
anybody? Go ahead.
down. They've dumbed them down. You look. I mean, I get it even with my kids sometimes when I talk to them, and I start seeing this victim mentality coming out. And
Right.
I know it's coming from the schools. I know it's coming from the internet, YouTube, and all of the junk and garbage that's being fed into to our
So,
kids.
so what are they? What are they teaching? How are they indoctrinating your kids in Australia, and well, just how is it affecting the education system out there? Is it the same as ours, like having a drag queen story hour, that type stuff?
No, that really wouldn't sit well here in Australia. But we're getting this real gender ideology type crap being taught in schools because look, unfortunately, I honestly believe there's some good teachers out there in the Australian education system, but I'll tell you what, I believe there's a lot of socialists too, and a lot of like, oh, you can be whatever you want to be, and everybody gets a participation trophy, and it's
So, so
it's
compare.
not the sort of education we had. You see, kids are still allowed to take electronic devices to school. You know, kids are sitting in classrooms with phones. I mean, they use calculators to do mathematics and computers to do this and that and everything else. Yet you
Right.
ask one of these kids to go and change a tire on a car or boil an egg or do something like we were all taught to do. They can't do it. Now, I mean, I taught my kids when I was still married. We used to go up and we used to butcher our own sheep. And I would teach my kids how to do it. I'd teach my kids how to, kill a chicken and pluck it and so you can eat, how you can find water. And if you're staying somewhere and you need to survive, how to set up so you can collect water just through, condensation. They were the things I was teaching my kids.
Right.
But
Right.
now, you ask a child, who was the, and I don't know the answer, but who was the 40th president of the United States, and they should be able to answer. But yet you ask them, oh, what was SpongeBob's best mate who lived in a star shell cluster? What was his name? They'd be able to tell you.
Yeah, I don't even know that because I never watched SpongeBob.
Oh, me either. Me either. But do you see? I mean, I remember
Yeah.
growing up. The cartoons I used to watch was like Roadrunner, Scooby Doo. I grew up with shows like The Munsters, The Addams Family, Daniel Boone, F
Yeah.
Troop, Tails Navy,
Oh, y'all had a
Hogan's.
yeah, y'all had the same TV we had then back in the day when we were growing up. Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, isn't it amazing that in every one of the, and especially one like Andy Griffith and say Daniel Boone, there was always a moral message in every show, in every episode. There was always
Right.
a moral message. Now, there's no moral messages in any of the TV shows. In fact, of anything. I mean,
Right.
I got hold of nine and a half. No, what was it? 2.5 Men for
Right.
my brother-in-law because he likes it. So, and I sat down. And I thought, well, I'll watch it before I give it to him. And I
Right.
watched it all, and the way that like the characters acted and everything else, and it was just like I'm not surprised. You'd have a chat. They'd be talking to the son there and whatever, and just the back chat and all the rest of it, and the smart. I mean, if I ever said that to my father when I was young, I'd be across the room. He would have backhanded me. I mean, I was taught respect. Yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am.
Right. Right. Right.
You see somebody without a seat in the bus and you're sitting down, you get up, you give it to them. These morals, standards, family values, these were all the things I was taught as a kid, plus how to survive.
Right.
Nowadays, I'll tell you what, nowadays, if the internet goes down, I'll tell you what, 7 out of 10 of millennials will just vaporize. They'll just have a mental meltdown.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. back to the landlines and all that stuff like that. I says, I hope people learn how to tap in the regular phone lines and communicate. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
mean, because that is possible. I mean, I wouldn't teach it out here on the internet, but if I really, really needed to communicate thanks to the military, I'd know how. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, I'm an ex-telephone technician, so I know how.
Same here. You know, say signal. I was a signal communication specialist, so so I'm like, I'm cool with that. I could tap into a line. You know what I mean? Ain't no thing but chicken wing.
Yeah,
But at the same time, it's not going to be secure. You know what I'm saying? Because of the different technology of that. But just to get a message through or something like that, yeah, I mean it's easy.
yeah.
Or even better than that, you can actually make a telephone without using wire at all, just by using a satellite dish. You know what I'm saying? And the reverberation of because sound travels. You know what I'm saying? So if you
Definitely.
if you point into a direction and somebody else has that same dish has a dish, you can actually hear them from miles away because it basically turns to that same type of frequency as a telephone that you can hear a person miles away if it's pointed to the same direction. But people don't really realize that or stuff like that. But
Well,
that's
I think they should. I think they should, considering when who was it? Newsom brought out that law going they're going to confiscate ham radios and ham radios are going to become illegal. I mean, that's really your first sign going. Well, you got if you're going to take over somebody, what do? You cut their communication first.
right. I mean, I think that's the next thing. I mean, and don't be surprised that one day you sit there and you go on your phone or you go turn your smart TV on and all that, and all of a sudden the internet's completely gone.
Yeah.
I mean, don't be surprised. Don't say I can't believe it when I mean because the world is communicating so rapidly in news. Like if something happens, right, within minutes the whole world knows about it. And thinking and just thinking their shoes, if the whole world can find out on something in minutes, then that would be a threat to my whole operation. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, in a way, you got to put yourself in the enemy's shoes and what they are thinking.
Oh,
You know,
definitely. I mean,
and
that's part of some songs, Art of War. Know
right.
your
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, you have to put yourself in the place of your enemy and how they think. And I think due to the selfishness and the way people interact with each other, I think that people lost their ability to have empathy, and then when people's looking at empathy like very, very one dimensional, and at one standpoint, yeah, people's empathy becomes one dimensional, but also there's people that don't have empathy because they're clouded by their own selfishness. And then once they don't have the empathy, I think it makes it harder for people to actually think for themselves and to foresee events that are happening before they even happen, just through plain out logic and practicality.
Yeah, yeah. Look,
You,
I have to agree. And unfortunately, the younger generation is dumb. They've been sold a story and they believe it.
yeah,
And it's trying to convince them, and it's really hard even when you use facts and everything else because they don't want to listen. And I mean, we've got those to sort of that sort of generation to deal with.
right,
But
right,
first things first. I mean, got to get Uncle Donald back in, get this voter fraud totally exposed, get the Democrats totally exposed, get another 4 years in, and then once and we got another 4 years, countries have got to start thinking about what they really want, because we've all got to start considering China. China is going to be where the next problem is.
right. So, what do y'all think about Russia?
I think Vladimir Putin's just sitting back watching what's going on. He's not picking any sides. He's not doing anything. He's just watching. He already knows what's coming, and he's got a lot more control in his country than the New World Order. So
Right.
he's sitting a little bit better than everybody else. And he's
Right.
not part of the New World Order. But you
Oh
know
yeah.
what? He's sitting back. And I can tell you honestly, Vladimir Putin would prefer to deal with Uncle Donald than bloody Joe Biden.
Right. Right. And I believe that too. But in a way that, I mean, you see, I think that I don't think Russia. I want to say on the lower case. You know what I'm saying? That Russia is really not our enemy. I just don't think that. I mean, that was the Cold War. I mean, I have Russian friends and Russian friends in Russia, and they're great, honest, hardworking people, and all that. And we came to an agreement that, man, it's not us. It's not us that we hate you. You know what I'm saying? I go, it's our governments, and that's what a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, is actually coming to an agreement that it's not the people, it's the governments, it's the people just dragged into it.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
and
Why
if
do the
we
Democrats why do the Democrats hate the Russians so much? Probably because the Russians won't work with them.
right,
Because
right,
they know how corrupt they are. I mean, China loves the Democratic Party because all China has to do is wave money around.
right,
And and,
right,
and the Democratic Party will sell anything in America, including Americans, for money.
right,
They don't
right,
care. They just want money and power.
right, right. And is there anybody out there, man, that have a question about, you know what I'm saying, something relevant, not nothing stupid or anything like that, but let alone is like a question that you wanna ask dealing with world affairs, what other countries think and all that. And you, Dingo, what other countries that you know that
Well,
feel the same, that basically is that's in the same boat that you talk to outside of Australia.
look, you've got England's got a problem. And the problem is, if you think the Democrats are corrupt, then you should look at both parties in England because both parties are really one. Boris Johnson, I don't think is going to get a lot done. The problem is that country just got flooded with too much immigration too quickly, and not immigration that sorts. You've got the EU and the UN who are really upset because England doesn't want to play ball anymore. I mean, here's a funny thing, and communications. The two main places in Europe that don't have 5G is Brussels and Luxembourg, and one's the EU and the other's the UN. Funny about
Right,
that. But look, there are world powers. I mean, New Zealand, well, they've just voted in another socialist. I mean, she is a socialist, Jacinda Ardern, definitely. She loves China, loves Biden, loves the Clintons. She used to belong to Fabian Society, which is, if you didn't know anything about it, you should research it. It's spelled Fabian. Their logo is a wolf in sheep's clothing, hence where you get the term from.
right,
They were formed, I think, in England in 1910 or something like that.
right,
So but New Zealand's a very small population, but she'll go the big green deal because they've just sort of gone that way. Australians, well, look, we're at the stage now where we realise that we've just had to import too much from China, our dependency on China, our dependency on a lot of things, and we've got to get back to actually like a bit more isolationist and cleaning up our own backyard first.
right,
We've got massive unemployment, massive debt. I mean, the figures are coming out for some of the debt in these states, especially the ones run by Labor, and it's mind-boggling. I mean, how can a state be $110 billion in debt? And the place
right,
is a shithole.
right,
Taxpayers are getting angry because those that are working hard. And we're taxed on a lot of things. Like, I'll give you an example. To buy a packet of cigarettes, say 25 cigarettes, right? would cost you about $30 US.
Right.
Right. So we get taxed on our income, sales tax. We've got to pay 10% or 11% on sales tax. And then you've got other taxes on your like fuel, registration. Just everything is taxed. And we're getting tired that the money's getting wasted. And we're seeing a lot of corruption in our politicians, and nothing's getting done. Nobody's going to jail. All they seem to be able to do is quit. And then they all end up on all these corporate boards and these, on the chairmanship of banks and working for major corporations. And we're getting tired of it. And yet we see this man like Uncle Donald and just go, look, somebody great can run a country. The problem is with our system is you'll never get an independent become prime minister.
Right.
And at the moment, what they're trying to do is, and it'll start up again. They did it 10 years ago, and it's going to start up again. They're going to push for what they call a republic, where we sever ourselves from Mother England, from the Commonwealth, right? We become a republic.
Is that in the works right now, or?
No. They're trying to get it going, but the problem is, at the end of the day, in the republic, it'll be the politicians that pick the prime minister. It'll be government that picks government. It'll end up being a system where we will have no say.
So do you as the people have a plan?
Well, the basic, if you ask most Australians at the moment, it's getting over this pandemic. A lot of people are turning around going, I'm not interested in a vaccine, because they brought the same law in, 12 weeks ago, that you can't sue the pharmaceutical companies if the vaccine goes bad.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah. So why would you want to put something in your body that they're not going to give you a guarantee of? And then you don't even know what it really is. They can come up with 10,000 different, surgical names for it or whatever, or medical names for it, but you really don't know what's in it. And at the end of the day, we all know that these are people you don't trust. So why? Right. The biggest airline in Australia is Qantas Airline, and he said the other day they want to open up, and because we were told we were going to be restricted until 2022 from international travel.
Till 2022?
Yeah, well, that was because that's when they said the vaccines would be fully implemented.
So y'all are basically prisoners inside of your own country until 2022 is what you're saying.
Well, that's what they were doing, but they've changed it now, and they want to, maybe by about the middle of next year, we'll start back up again, being able to go overseas. Mainly things. I mean, if you had to go overseas for business, I'm sure you can. But if you want to go on a holiday or a leisure thing, at the moment, you just can't do it. They've opened up Australia and New Zealand, so there's travel there. But yeah, we're still bringing Australians back from all over the world. And then they're going into quarantine up in the Northern Territory for 2 weeks. Okay. So any Australians or anybody we bring in now, we're not bringing them back into capital cities or anything else. We're bringing them into sort of...
So you can't even go on a vacation, so you got to stay there 2 weeks before you can even go to vacation in Australia if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly.
So like Sydney and Melbourne and all them big cities that has a really big tourist traffic. I mean, they're hurting bad.
Oh yeah. Oh look, we're even hurting more because Australia is one of the spots where we get a huge amount of European backpackers, right?
Right.
And they flood into Australia because they love Australia in summer, because Australia is just awesome in summer, and even in winter, depending on where you are, would be like summer in their own country. But what they do is they come in and they've got a deal, like backpackers have a deal tax-wise with the government, and they go out and they're the fruit pickers. They're the ones that do seasonal work, like they'll go and work in an area and pick all the oranges or apples or peaches or fruit or whatever. Um, and Australia's really hurting at the moment because a lot of people just don't want to, especially unemployed people, don't want to get off their ass and go out to the country and earn some money. Because at the moment we got no backpackers in the country.
Right, right,
So it's it's many. This virus has affected many things, and biggest thing it's affected is the amount of debt we're all in. Now, where's the money owed? Who do we owe it to? And my first words would be International Monetary Fund, the
right,
World Bank, that bank we don't like, that bank that is
right,
globalist. People got to realize everything. I mean, I think it's a family of well, not a family, but it's 300 people that own everything in the world. People don't understand that Nestle, for example, I think you call it Nestle, we call it Nestles, are going around buying up all the water rights. Nestle do not want anybody to have access to water. They want to privatize it. So every drop of water you have, you've got to pay for. It'd be like that movie Tank Girl, with the big
right,
water corporations. All the same people that make all the different brands of food, they're all owned by the same parent companies. I mean, I'm more concerned. You see, we become such a society of processed food.
right,
Now,
right,
obesity if you've noticed, obesity has increased throughout the world.
right, right. Oh
You
yeah,
know,
especially here in the United States, especially here in the United States. Obesity is a real big thing out here and stuff like that. Lots of heart disease and all that,
cancer, bowel
diabetes,
cancer. Yep.
all from GMOs and all that type stuff like that. What is your main exports right now from Australia? Like, what do
The
you export the most?
coal, iron ore, um, livestock, uh, copper, nickel, zinc, uranium, a lot of different exports. They're all big.
Right, right.
Problem is, it's like
What about lithium and stuff like that?
there are a couple of lithium mines sort of starting up, but there's more. We're not sort of big on lithium because it's the Chinese are, but it's just massive damage for a limited resource. And
Right,
you
right,
look at some of the lithium mines around the world. I mean, look at the major devastation it's done. I mean, we do actually care about the environment,
right,
but it's until you can get a battery cell that can store that power and not be as expensive to make and be able to last the time. Battery power and sort of things like that just aren't that good.
right, right. Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. I'm thinking that I mean, just for me, man, as I'm thinking that I think we should like really, really start thinking about like mining on the moon. You know what I
Mm.
mean? I mean, because I mean, we plan on going there back to the moon, but I hope that's the main instead of putting a base. I hope it's like basically for mining. Because if we start mining off planet, just saying, you know what I'm saying, that I think it'd be a lot better for our environment, and I just think there'd be more different minerals too, and maybe we can find something that could actually um, contain a lot of energy and stuff like that. Like my biggest thing is superconductors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That I really think that superconductors could be a wave of the future. It's just finding a way to contain it. You know what I'm saying? With a strong enough ionic field. I mean, that's just me. That's just the geek in me. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. Because I don't think there's anything earthly that could, like if you can harness nuclear power in the size of a battery, it would be in the size of a D battery. It'd be impossible because it contained the radiation, all that. There's nothing here on Earth. So if we can find something else, you know what I'm saying, that can contain that type power and not
Yeah,
give off the radiation but still have the power, it's a long shot. I wish it can possibly happen. I mean, people's talking about matter and antimatter, but then that's when you go into CERN and all that stuff, Hadron Collider and all that good stuff. But a lot of that type stuff is over basic human beings' head because they, as I said, people don't study, people don't read, people don't really, you know what I'm saying, get into the science, and then when they get into science, then they're getting into science for the wrong reasons. You know what I'm saying? And what's the thing is was between, I mean, God and science, they really guide science beautifully to just deceive people. I mean, yeah, I believe in science, but I believe in science to a point. You know what I mean? Because then it goes to the question of who created that. You know what I'm saying? And now, like recently in the past 10 years, they talk about, okay, now we're looking at the God particle. Well, now you're putting God inside the box and say it's a God particle because you don't have any other answer because you knock down subatomic particles to quarks. Now we're looking at dark matter, antimatter, and all that stuff like that. And even smaller than that, now they're calling it the God particle. And I'm like, okay, dude, you know what I'm saying? Stop trying to be God and all that stuff like that. And to me, it's just a modern day Tower of Babel. Do you believe that we're actually entering into a beast system?
I honestly would. What I believe is we're entering an electronic age that is going to dumb us down. The problem is, and I've noticed this, that like with my devices, my phone, my tablet, my computer, like I connected my phone, now my computer has all my phone stuff, all this crap. They're all interconnected. Society is being pushed more and more onto the internet, more and more onto this is how we now do things. Look, I want to go back to basics. I mean,
Right,
next year, if I can get to the States, I'll get to the States. But next year, I'm going to be traveling around Australia doing seasonal sort of work once I get my wrist operated on,
right,
and be self-sufficient. Have a little what we call a caravan, you call them a trailer. Have it behind my vehicle, set
right,
myself, and be self-sufficient. Go back to basics. I mean, for example, like if you go back and say World War II, and in World War II there was massive rationing because we were feeding, all different countries were feeding the world, and so you had rationing. So what did people do? They used to tear up their backyard that had this really nice lawn, looked really great but very unfunctional, and put in vegetable patches, had chicken coops, had would share, say, maybe one small pig amongst a couple of neighbours. I think they got back to the basics of the three things you need in the world to survive: food, water, shelter. Now you've got your
right,
house, so there's shelter. If you've got water, you can create food, and if you can create food, you can sustain yourself. See, in Australia, every backyard in Australia in those times, because of the food rationing and sort of things, people were growing all their own vegetables, and kids knew how to grow vegetables and how to raise chickens, how to slaughter a chicken if you're going to do it for the Sunday roast. The fact you've got to get rooster, get eggs, all these sort of things. All these different things that were just common knowledge in those days are rare these days. You can ask a kid how to replace a battery in maybe an iPhone or a Samsung phone, and they can do it. But when it comes to basic things for learning how to live and survive, they don't know anything. And this is all because of the electronic age. I mean, if you've got a question now, and this is what most people do, and I even watch my family do it, when they got a question, what they do? Straight to Google. That's it. And whatever Google tells them, that's what it's going to be.
Correct.
So when you get, and books are disappearing. The written word in our society is disappearing. You know, eventually, if you own a bookshop, eventually in 10 years, you'll never exist. I don't know whether you've ever read that book, Fahrenheit 451. Awesome book. Because
Right.
I love to read, and I teach my kids to read. Because there's a lot more truth in some books than there is on what you find on the net. The net is whatever they allow you to see. Because if they
Right.
really don't, they'll get rid of it.
All right. Here's a question. What would happen to Australia if Biden became president of the United States?
All of our climate changes and everything else would be dancing for joy.
All right. I mean, you personally, as in you, a citizen of Australia, your friends, your family, you know what I'm saying, and your whole way of living. What do you see
Well,
Australia?
well, I'll tell you, if Biden gets in, I can see a lot more stupid decisions being done by our government that's going to cost us a lot of money over time, and is not going to be helpful. I can see that the left will then cement power. And if Biden gets in, I can definitely see us going down that New Deal road badly. And it's not good for Australia. That New Deal is not good at all.
Okay.
So
How
it's
about
not going to be a good thing for us. But look, the problem is a lot of people just don't really know what Biden's like. They're all going on what the mainstream media tells them.
mm,
We've got sheep here too, mate. And there's plenty of them.
right,
And
right,
they just don't realize the gravity of the situation. And the gravity of the situation is that if Biden's in, Australians can kiss a lot more freedom of speech and freedom to do as they choose going out the door, bit
right.
by, like we are now. I mean, if I go back 20, 30 years ago, my society was a lot freer than what it is now. And
Yeah.
there was a lot more, how can I put it, a lot more common sense.
Same here in America, man. You know, same here. What about like it's what do you see from like do you have people that's out there in England at the moment?
I've got a couple of mates in England, and they're more concerned at the moment with A, the Brexit deal, and B, because they're just getting locked down severely.
Yeah, you're going to have to get me in touch with some of your mates out there if I could do the same thing with them. So I like to really get a English perspective too and what's happening in England
Yeah,
if they're allowed, you know, and stuff like that. But yeah, but get a hold of one for me because I like to do an interview with them too. As I says, I got
sure.
a couple from people from different countries and stuff like that that I'll be putting on. You know what I'm saying? Because we got to see the because I really want to show the world view on stuff and like that. You know.
Yeah,
And,
look, it's the worldview. We've all got a lot of things in common going bad in our countries, and
right.
we're all in a situation that, and we all realise that. You would not believe. I honestly believe that Uncle Donald is probably one of the most loved and respected world leaders worldwide. Worldwide,
Hmm.
because he's you know what, he's actually done what he says he's going to do.
Right.
You can't, that's a rarity in any politician. But we all realise that if Biden gets in, then the deep state have won. The New Deal will affect us all, and we're going to be mandatory vaccinations. We're going to have no say, no freedoms. They're going to write laws that are going to just control us even more.
Right.
And it's a chain reaction. It's like, The world is like a set of dominoes set up, and if you flick one, the whole lot go.
Right.
China, why do you think China has offered to become the and they will be the next troops for the UN? You'll start seeing Chinese troops going into places under the name and the banner of the UN.
Red Dawn.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
know?
it's
Yeah, it'd be Red Dawn all over. I mean, for real.
yeah.
You know.
North Korea, North Korea is not a problem. South Korea, none of those. India's not a problem. Japan's not a problem. Vietnam's not a problem. But China, I mean, they're flexing their muscle and everything else, and the stuff that's coming out of their mouths, because they're going around to the world acting like the victim now, and using the fact that they're Asian, so they're bringing in the racism, right? Oh, you dislike us because we're Chinese, because we're Asian. You're a racist. So this is what they're
Oh.
doing.
Oh, so that's what they're doing out there because
It's,
they're Asian.
yeah. So
Wow. And what's
I
it?
mean,
What about the eight? So what does the So do you have Chinese Australian citizens there? What are they saying? That are
well,
that
we Australia's very multicultural. I mean, it became very multicultural from, say, the late 70s up. We took a lot of Vietnamese in after the war. And actually, Vietnamese are great. They're some of the best market gardeners you'll ever find. I mean, the stuff they can grow is incredible. The Chinese, they're in major cities. There's the Australian Chinese. They're really good. They're mainly from families that don't like communism. They're mainly from families that have been in Hong Kong a lot of their lives, that were under the British rule. I mean, isn't it funny that Hong Kong's really quiet now that China's just stepped in majorly, and they're just arresting people? I've seen videos arresting people left, right, and centre. Freedom
right?
of speech is gone. So I mean, the world should be, but the mainstream media is not reporting it. You see that we don't have the outlet to say this is what's happening. All we've got is what they allow us and what we can get in YouTube and social media, Twitter, Instagram, Parler, all the rest of it. We've got no major news outlets anywhere in the world that can go on and tell the truth.
Mm. Yeah, but also, man, yeah, I like to have some Asians too to come up, some Australian Asians, and tell what they're seeing in China too, because I know I can't get shit inside China. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And stuff
Yeah,
like,
I
yeah.
don't. I don't know any Chinese Australians. I mean, where I live, a lot are in Melbourne, but a lot of them, as I said, they came to Australia for democracy reasons. They wanted freedom to think and build a business and have a family,
Not
and
not
not
not much
Chinese rule.
not much difference than the American Latinas and Latinos that came from Mexico, that came from Venezuela, and all
Yep.
them cats, and you know what I'm saying, basically like the same belief system. The cats from Cuba, you know, and they just wanted to get away from it, and now it's gradually but surely like creeping into to even your way of life, just like it's creeping into our way of life, dealing with DACA, the Dreamers, and all this stuff like that, and the massive propaganda that's basically flooding all of our countries. I mean, to y'all that are watching, and to y'all the people that are going to watch, man. I mean, wake up. I have people from other countries, and they have the same cries, man. A lot of y'all liberals and snowflakes or whatever you want to call them, cats on the left. You think that the conservatives are bullshitting, but now it's at the point that I'm trying to bring people from other countries to tell you what they're going through, the same thing that we're going through here in America, and now it's to the point when it comes to the question. All right, you know, it's like it's not just you here in America that want to take over America, but now it's point that it's bigger than that. I mean, even the liberals here don't really get that. They think it's just America, but no, this is world domination here.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And this is what I'm trying to bring to the forefront on my platform. You
Well,
know,
if you've got a Christian-based country, what is the one thing you would immigrate into that country if you wanted to destroy it?
non-Christian,
Yeah.
non-God. You know what I'm saying? But I I always say let God take care of that because I can't save somebody as a Christian or not. I can't judge a person's soul. You know what I'm saying? So I really, and yes, I really do pivot from that because I don't want to be judged, and I'm not going to be judged. Only thing I can judge is by people's deeds. It's up to God to judge people's souls. You know,
Yeah.
and I tried I try and do my best not to really comment on somebody's, you know what I'm saying, individuality or anything like that, or their spiritual individuality dealing with their souls. But by the deeds and all that, that's all fair game.
Yeah.
You know what I
But
mean?
if you want to break up a look, if you want to break up a country, then you divide it. Now,
Right,
the more division you import into the country, the more division you're going to be in.
right, right,
You, I mean, look, Joe Biden said the other day he wants to increase immigration 800%.
right, right.
100%. So he's going to bring everybody in. There's going to be no jobs. There's going to be unrest and everything else. And then what happens? Oh, the UN troops come in to sort things down. Oh, then martial law. Then everything is locked down.
Mm-hmm.
Then your guns start getting taken, and then things happen.
And in the world, you know what I'm saying? And I hope to spread that we all, even when the internet goes down, we all got to find a way to communicate. And then also know that if the internet does go down, right? Don't think you're alone. We are all going through the same thing because I truly believe that we won't be able to communicate sooner or later. Only thing we'll
Oh,
have is these videos. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that, then to tell you what's going on in these other countries, and then find a way to get back together. You know what I'm saying? And fight this, but also inside your country and any other country. You know what I'm saying? Make Australia great. Make Germany great. Make Spain great. Make any of your countries great as well as
yep,
we make our own great. Then once we make our countries great, because our country is not just the land, it's the people. Then we as a people of the world can come together and still keep our sovereignty, still keep our culture,
yep,
still keep our traditions, still keep our lifestyles. And then once we're together, you know what I'm saying? Then when we go to those other countries and visit, because I was in Europe for 2.5 years to 2 years, man. And you know what? I love the culture. I had a great time with the culture in all the countries I went to. You know what I'm saying? Because what? Because that was a learning experience for me to learn the way other people live, to eat what they eat. You know what I'm saying? Do what they do, and then come back to my country and tell the wonderful stories about these people and say, yeah, you should go visit it, man, and have respect for their cultures. Don't sit there and try to impose your ideas. I mean, yes, some laws you may not agree with, but that's their country.
that's right.
You know what
But
I'm saying?
the problem we've got, and the problem especially England and Australia is going to have, is when you import or when you bring in and help certain people and everything else that have come from third world shithole countries, that they should be able to integrate and they should be able to become beneficial to society, not recreate their society here
Yeah,
and
and
make us down to their society when it's like, well, that's not what Australia's about.
hmm but they don't sit there and say you're racist. This is the Australians saying the same thing that Trump said, same thing that a lot of conservatives say. You know what I'm saying? And they say, oh well, we're not being like the rest of the world. No, you want to dominate the world.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And every country feels the same way. I don't mind you coming to my country. And I'm sure you don't mind me coming, but you know what? It's like going to somebody else's house. Obey their rules.
Yep.
That's it.
Respect the house.
You know what I'm saying? Respect that other countries that country that's their house. Our country is our house. We expect the same and they expect the same, but people don't want to understand that.
No, no. And it's hard to educate people, believe me.
Mhm.
But look, mate, I'm actually going to have to go. I've got about 14%, and wow, hour 40 minutes. I want to thank you so much for the discussion. I've really enjoyed it. I'll
Oh
try.
man.
I'll try to find some other international mates for you, and I'll try and find. I've got a couple of other Aussies you should talk to get different aspects. You know,
Okay, yeah, yeah, most def. That's what I'm really, looking forward to and stuff like that. I mean, that's my goal. I want to talk to more people from out of country. You know what I'm saying? Still have my regular show, but you know what? Always have somebody from out of country and give them time to speak their, points of views on issues that are in common with all of us.
yeah, and sometimes getting a different perspective. I mean, the one thing about the rest of the world is we're outside the box looking in. You guys
Right,
are in the box trying to look out.
right. You
And
know,
it's when you can get that communication, with the people outside the box and inside the box, that's the best thing because then you've got total communication and exchange ideas, exchange information,
in
discuss.
real foreign relations. You know what I'm saying? This
Yeah,
is foreign relations right here. This is foreign relation experience right here. Talking to the people, what they think.
yep,
That's very important to me because American interests today is not my interest. This right here is my interest. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Well, I think you picked a good interest, mate, because it's all part of the one thing. But yeah, we'll get there. You guys are having Thanksgiving.
Right.
What was it? You can only have 10 people at your Thanksgiving, but you can have 2 people at a funeral. So yeah, I saw this one post and it was really funny. That lady said, "Well, my turkey's just died, so there'll be drinks and food and."
Oh, also, so hey man, hey, celebrate Thanksgiving with us, man. Don't put them away.
Oh yeah, well we don't have a Thanksgiving here, but I mean we have similar things.
No,
But
Thanksgiving for me, yes, it's just for me, man. It's just being thankful for what we have and pray that we don't lose any more of what we have and gain what we had back.
yeah,
That's what Thanksgiving's about for me this year.
Thanksgiving is to me Thanksgiving has always been about family.
Mhm.
That's what it to me is family.
Yeah. You know.
That's the time of the year whether you're Democrat, Republican, or an independent, or whether you're a biker and the other one's a hymn singer or whatever else, whatever your differences are in life, should be the one time where you can just sit down and communicate.
Right. Right. Right.
Enjoy everybody's company because I'll tell you what, when you start losing family members through ill health or old age or death and things like that, you start thinking to yourself, maybe I should have spent more time with them. You always get that little bit of regret when one of your relatives dies.
Right.
And
Wait.
so
What's it?
that's
YouTube is
what
hiding.
Thanksgiving means to me.
Wow. It's hiding. He said YouTube is hiding the stream. This is what Pro Life Warrior said. Wow. They, they said they don't want us to know. Well, as I says, man, all love to you, my friend, man. I'm going to we'll chat. We'll chat. You know that. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? Yeah, we don't have to be online on this, but we'll chat. We'll chat on like regular casual, man. It's good to have you as a friend, man, and thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you.
thank you very much for asking me, and mate, it's a pleasure and any time, and like I said, I'm always here. I'm always willing to discuss and communicate. And once again, thanks for the opportunity. And
Oh
you
yeah.
take And you have a good Thanksgiving, and I hope America has a great Thanksgiving. And God bless America and my Uncle Donald. And
God bless, and God bless Australia too, man. Keep the fight going, man. Where we go one, we go all.
that's it, brother. Every day.
All right.
Take
Okay.
care, mate.
All
See
right.
ya.
All right. Bye bye. Well, folks, this right here, man, it was a really, really, really good conversation, man. You know what I'm saying? And Dingo was a real blessing and stuff to come on. And right now, I'll sit there and I'll put the link out if everybody want to have an after discussion, say what's on their mind for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I got about an hour or so that I'm gonna go to hop on pro lifes or hop on somebody else's or go to sleep. I don't know. Depends on what type of mood I'm in. I'm gonna use my brain a lot on this one. But if y'all want to come on and stuff like that, here's the link. I'll wait a couple minutes and there we go. I'll sit there and I'll put on some music, have a little intermission here for a couple minutes, and let's get it, man. Wait a second. Let's find some. Uh, music. Wait a second. Let me take this off. Okay, hold on one second. I said the link's up there. If you want to come on for an after discussion, here's the link. Here it goes. What y'all think of the interview, your input, what have you learned, and anything like that. The link's up there. And I'll check you out in a minute. And people come on, I'll come back on. Or if not, then I'm going to max relax and go check out my friends on their rooms and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, to YouTube, to Facebook, to all this mainstream tech media, fuck you. God bless.
Straight up and down, I'm here to knock you out the box. Words in my pop, sell records like I sold rocks. Y'all bitch ass niggas, I'll meet you at the top. Don't try to give me no love, cause my shit's blazing hot. Smack you with the Mac, give you a speed knot. And being a source, next issue saying why I dissed you. Punk motherfuckers, y'all don't want the ruckus. So-called tough guys, I despise your lies. I see it in your eyes, you pussy and you frontin'. Niggas smack your moms, you won't even do nothing. Fuck all y'all bitch ass niggas. 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 Fuck all y'all bitch bitch ass niggas who want it. Just say something so I can spray something. I seen them in they videos with them silly hoes acting like they boning them. They don't even be knowing them. I'm ready to smack the dog shit out of them. I don't give a fuck if they gold and platinum. My rhymes flatten them like a ton of bricks in my guns roll, pulling out all type of shit. About time I flip. Y'all niggas been living good. Niggas get paid to say fuck the hood. No, it's fuck you, bitch ass nigga. You heard? If they get robbed and murdered, they deserve it. Fuck them with no grease. I hate them like I hate the police. If I get the chance, I'll crash they dome piece. You pink panty wearing pussy fucking coward. All of a sudden, all y'all niggas bout it. Niggas ain't even trying to cop no brick. Ain't even trying to worry about the cops and shit. Niggas need to stop this shit before they get slave whipped. Niggas from the projects don't wanna hear that fake shit. Come with what you got to come with and stop acting like a little bitch. Screwball drops the illest shit to bless the streets and all my sons. And for the rest of y'all niggas, from the top of my lungs I scream, fuck all y'all bitch ass niggas. 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 What? What, motherfucker? What? Yeah. Screwball, big poet. Representing QB, you know